In this video, I simply want to record myself creating sounds and assets for actual projects that I'm working on. So either for my own library, for my sample packs, or for projects with trailer publishers. I hope that this is interesting to some of you. I think this should give you a bit more insight than me just presenting a few techniques. And so today I'm going for a specific type of cinematic distorted bass sound. So not quite like a Braam, but I guess very similar regarding the intended usage of the sound, but it's more a kind of a signature sound. And now let's just see what we can come up with. So I'm using current today. I'm looking for more of a subtle movement. I don't want this very digital sounding typical wavetable movement. I would just use this lower part of this, so very subtle movement. It's not too aggressive, not too much in your face. I'm just going to use one LFO here for the movement, restrict it to a rather small area, and I'm also going to make the movement rather slow. Additionally, add some movement with this bend mode here. Maybe add something very subtle here as well. And for the type of sound I'm going for today, I want frequency modulation. So I'm gonna activate oscillator B. I actually don't wanna hear oscillator B, I just wanna use it for the frequency modulation. So let's set the source to oscillator B here. And now with this, we can control the amount. Right, so let's just use a curve on this one for the overall movement of the sound. So I just want to increase intensity as usual. So I'm just going to take a curve like this, maybe slow it down. So this is more or less going to be the length of the overall sound, I guess. And also make this a one shot. We can also give this a few voices and detune it. Whatever you do to this source sound is going to affect the frequency modulation. So it's nice to play around with this one as well, but especially obviously pitch plays a big role here. At this point, let's just head over to the effects section. And what I typically like to do is I like to use multiple compressors and distortions after each other just to enhance and change the sound quite a bit. And afterwards, I'm typically using some filter movement, but I very often end up actually placing the filter movement in front of this large chain of compressors and distortions because I don't want the filter movement to be too obvious. I just want the EQ cuts and boosts to be evened out by this chain again. Especially all the boosts, they're gonna affect the distortion units and the compressors as well. So let's just quickly add a few compressors here. These don't do too much, but now with the distortion we can change the sound a bit more. We can add a bit more color by doing this. Maybe use the curve on this one as well for the dry wet. Just increase the intensity a bit more by bringing this distortion unit up. Right, now let's play around maybe with some Morph EQ stuff. Again, I don't need to do too much here, it's just some more subtle movement, or more or less subtle, I guess. This is always something that's interesting to play around with, where you place it in the chain. So as I mentioned before, I really like to place it at the beginning, just to even everything out, but also to see how the distortion and compression units actually react. At this point, I would also just start with the post-processing, so I definitely want to distort this even more. Oh yeah, and we can also actually activate the sub here. Potentially change the sound a lot if the sine wave is routed through all of this here. Now for this here, let's also focus on the high end a bit more. Limit this quite a bit. Sometimes I also like to use something like disperser on sounds like this, mainly for the initial impact. Also, it can make sense to just use a bit of pitch modulation, so I'm just going to use the same curve that I've been using for the overall movement of the sound, and just use it for a bit of pitch modulation, just roughly around 2 semitones here, just that we also increase the pitch as we increase the distortion and the frequency modulation. also just add some EQ in between here. And then, of course, some reverb. Let's just reduce this a bit here. And I probably also don't want to have that much high end in the reverb. I actually want to add some more distortion here. We can also use something like this here for a bit more experimental stuff. But yeah, playing it in mono obviously can be interesting as well. So let's just quickly set this up, enable the glide. Let's use a wave shaper here. Let's just play around with this a bit. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully see you in the next one.